Welcome to the WPAOG podcast. This episode features an interview with retired Colonel Mark Bieger, West Point class of 1991, President and CEO of the West Point Association of Graduates, and Izzy Wolf, Alumni Services Manager. Mark graduated from the United States Military Academy with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and commissioned as an infantry officer. For more than 28 years in the U.S. Army, he held leadership positions at the platoon, company, battalion, and brigade levels, deploying to Iraq twice and receiving the Silver Star for valorous actions. Mark's three sons also graduated from USMA, the most recent being a 2023 grad. Joining him is Izzy Wolf, Alumni Services Manager with over 5 years of experience supporting West Point societies. The two discuss the 2024 Founders Day celebrations, the mission of the AOG, and the importance of alumni connections. Please enjoy this episode with our host, Jamie Enos.
Mark, Izzy, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today to talk about AOG and specifically these last few weeks of togetherness during Founders Day events. When we think about the beginning of AOG, we have to go way back to Robert Anderson, class of 1825, whom we credit with the idea. Fast forwarding to May 22nd, 1869, when 15 graduates adopted the articles and bylaws and created a constitution stating, quote, "The object of this association shall be to cherish the memories of the military academy at West Point and to promote the social intercourse and fraternal fellowship of its graduates." Mark, as president and CEO, can you talk about the mission and the vision of AOG and how that drives what we do back here at Herbert Alumni Center?
Thanks, Jamie. First, I want to thank you for everything you do for our association every single day. We're so lucky to have you on the team and leading all these podcasts. But I could talk about the mission all day long, so I don't know how long we have on this conversation. But our mission at the Association of Graduates is to serve. It's to serve West Point and our long gray line. The mission statement drives everything we do. In fact, if you were to do an inventory of all of our programs, our activities, all of our efforts, every single one of those can tie directly back to that mission statement, as it should. Our vision is a little bit more broad. It's what we aspire to be, and that's to be the most highly connected alumni body in the world. The neat thing about this topic and this conversation is that Founders Day is a direct reflection of that vision, and of course, it's embedded in our mission statement. So I'm excited about the conversation. Back here at Herbert Hall, we have every single one of our team focus on that mission every single day, and Founders Day is a wonderful way to see that in action.
I'd like to say that I memorized that piece that I said earlier, the quote, as part of my role here, but I honestly just found that information. We have a room here at Herbert Alumni Center at AOG. We call it the publications room. And within there are copious notes from the years. And the room itself is really unimpressive, right? It's just a room with bookshelves and a small table to work at. It's nothing ornate is in there. But anyone can go in there and literally be surrounded by the long gray line with the annual reports and the howitzers and the register of graduates, photo albums, old AOG publications. In fact, the association's 1901 annual reunion, they included an index to obituaries, and it had 953 names in there, which is a lot like our modern day TAPS, right? So it's just a real pull it all together. I actually like going in there sometimes when I just need a break and say, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And just spinning in this little, 10 by 10 room. It's just a small little space. But all of this history that we have at AOG, it's documenting the long gray line. And I know that our teammates take that responsibility really seriously, as you mentioned. And as we transition into the digital profiles, it's really important that we remember and express that we have the responsibility of taking inventory of the newest members of the long gray line as well. But now that the long gray line consists of nearly 55,000 living graduates, we've added a few new things. So Izzy, thanks for being on again. Talk about your role here at AOJ.
Sure. So thanks so much for having me. My name is Izzy Wolf. I am the Alumni Services Manager here at the Association of Graduates. My primary role is to support societies and shared interest groups. So I am working every day with our amazing volunteers, helping them get anything they need, and then also connecting graduates and other community members to those societies and shared interest groups.
So although West Point, the post, had been in existence for nearly a quarter of a century, and cadets had been learning field artillery and studying engineering and French, foreign language, I think Spanish was one of the original languages as well. The garrison was 1794. And then March 16th, 1802 marks the day when Congress formally authorizes the funding for President Thomas Jefferson. And he signs the document establishing the existence of West Point as the military academy. On that date, Jefferson signed the Military Peace Establishment Act, directing that a corps of engineers be established and, quote, stationed at West Point in the state of New York and shall constitute a military academy. West Point formally commenced its role as an institution for scientific and military learning on July 4th, 1802. That's when I was talking about the foreign languages and some of the other activities and classes. Drawing, I think, was one of them as well. And then 100 years later, probably in imitation of the extended celebration of the centennial of the Academy's founding, alumni start having parties, right? We do that well here. We tailgate together, right? We celebrate well together.
Yes.
So they start having anniversary dinners on March 16th. We first formally recognized the first Founders Day dinner, attributing it to the West Point Society of New York. And they held that at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in 1914. Mark, do you have a personal history of Founders Days? What other ones have you attended prior to being the CEO here at AOJ?
Yes. So as I think back over my Army career, we tried to get to every Founders Day that we could, whether we were in Fort Riley, Kansas, Fort Richardson, Alaska, you name the poster installation. When Founders Day came around, we made it a point to gather. And of course, it's to catch up with our friends and classmates. But honestly, there's so many other neat things going on inside of those gatherings, so many classes, so many stories. Every single one was a wonderful opportunity. I think most memorable of the many that we went to was a Founders Day it used to be called Fort Lewis, Washington, where our battalion was tasked to host it. So we had a battalion of Manchus. We were hosting it. We had a great gathering. But we were honored by the presence of Manchus from Vietnam as well. Some of them grads, some of them not. But for a few hours, those Vietnam veterans got to see and touch and feel the strength of the Long Great Line, and that was really memorable and exciting. So every single one was different. Everyone, like you said, Jamie, was a party, and just great memories throughout all those years.
Yeah, and at party, we do celebrate and connect. I remember our time out Pikes Peak region. That was a great one. We've been up in the Panhandle, Gulf Coast, and down in Fort Benning, and getting around the country and seeing all the different people. And it's so fun to bring everybody back together. It's these little mini reunions of pockets all across the country. What society events did you attend this year? Because one of the great things at AOG, I think, is that we get to send somebody out, right? So where did you go?
We got to 6 of them this year, maybe 7, 6, I think is the right number. All over, starting in Dallas. Then we went to Naples and Columbia, South Carolina. We went to Washington, D.C. We got to Philadelphia, and the last one was a special trip out to Hawaii. So we went to every single one, again, was unique, different. Every society's got its own personality, but every single one was powerful. You felt like you were going to a family dinner or to a group that gets together with each other all the time. It was just really powerful to see and enjoy. I think we traveled, my wife added this up, maybe about 8,000 miles. But honestly, I wish we could have doubled that. And next year we probably will try, because the events were so enjoyable. We got so much out of just being around those societies and a part of those Founders Days.
Izzy, you have a heavy hand here helping make sure those things are executed well and just go off without a hitch. So can you give us some facts about these Founders Days? How many total events do we run?
So this year we estimate there were about 109 events that we were at least tracking. And the one that was the furthest away from West Point was the West Point Society of Thailand. They are 8,600 miles away.
Wow. So we are really reaching the globe here when we talk about these events and bringing everybody together. And you have an oldest grad who attended. Do you know that?
We are tracking with the West Point Society of the Space Coast. It was Colonel Keith Ball. He was class of 46. He's 100 years old.
Let me tell you, Colonel Ball is sharp as a whip. We actually celebrated his 100th birthday during that Founders Day. It was a great little celebration that we could combine together in addition to the traditions that happened there. He was telling me stories about boarding the ships and sailing down for Army Navy and everybody getting seasick in the gale force winds and getting off and marching to the game. And then they were victorious that year. So they marched back, got back on the ships. And it was to their great surprise that they had a lovely celebratory dinner that no one could eat because they were still nauseous from the wake coming up the Hudson. But yeah, those little stories I think are so important too, that we get to intake and capture and get to retell here on the podcast, telling that story. That's also an important piece of it too, having that communications. Mark, what did you see, or did you run into anybody that you haven't seen in a long time? And
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Classmates that I hadn't seen in years. Some classmates I hadn't actually seen since graduation, if you can believe it. But incredible to see them and then just instantly reconnect. It's almost no time had passed. So that was a lot of fun. I'd say in a couple of those locations, we had I think 91 had maybe the highest density of graduates there. So lots of pictures, lots of stories, lots of catching up. So that was really neat. The other thing that we found really neat to see, and we were, of course, observers in this, we were guests really, was just to see the powerful connection that existed inside of the society. There were graduates from multiple generations that looked at each other as if they were classmates. You could have scrambled everybody, thrown them on different tables, and the conversation would have still been off the chart because of their shared experience, their friendships that they've built over many years. And it was just a really special thing to see and to be a part of.
Yeah. And so for anybody listening that hasn't been to one or isn't a grad and doesn't attend, it usually starts off with a cocktail reception. We call that the Benny Havens Hour. We have opening remarks, the posting of the colors, reciting the cadet prayer, toast, dinner, and then the cake cutting ceremonies, usually with the oldest grad and the youngest grad somehow involved with that. They also give a short speech. AOG, we get to send someone to attend and represent the association. Someone from the academy attends and represents the academy as well. There's singing of the alma mater. And then just some good times of conversation, a lot of that happening as well. I think I may have been committed to moving to the Space Coast after attending because I was sold about what a great place it was. And I think someone found me a realtor and I'm ready to go. But each society does welcome and add its own flair to the standard theme, whatever that is, whatever live entertainment or displays, door prizes, those kind of things. Izzy, do you have any feedback on something cool that anybody's doing out there in the societies for Founders Day specifically?
I know the West Point Society of Oregon tries to add one special thing every year. So they've done trivia, they get a photographer, they do a really good job. I think this year they had someone who made a custom quilt and they gave it to their academy speaker. I think the soup went out this year.
Okay. And Mark, what did you see? Did you have any highlights or kind of things that were different from each society that you attended?
Everyone was different and unique and special, to be honest. Hawaii, of course, a ton of Hawaiian shirts, a lot of aloha and that kind of spirit. Down in D.C., huge party, incredible graduates gathered. They had one of those cameras that spin around 360 when you get up there. So everyone was running around on that thing. But everyone was special. Philadelphia was beautiful, incredible historic location. Columbia, South Carolina, they had so many neat things on display, old 4Cs and 4Ds, which is what we used to get written up with. But so many cool things just to look at and touch and to reminisce on. Everyone was different, but everyone honestly was electric.
I actually, talking about that publications room again, I was in there and I found that in the annual report from June 11th, 1936, that's how detailed these documents are. It's neat. That the association in its former years, quote, assisted alumni in charge of the annual West Point dinners throughout the country, end quote. Mm-hmm. And that even NBC had broadcasted the event to ensure that senior graduates from all over the world had the worldwide hookup. And when I say hookup, I don't mean that in slang in our modern terms, but I mean actually like plugging into the radio and turning it on so that they can kind of attend and be a part of it. So I think it's so important that we just highlight that tradition as evolution, and we get on planes and travel 8,000 miles and those kind of things is really at the core of the reason why these events are happening. And people like Izzy are there to help orchestrate and make sure they go off without a hitch.
I love that, Jamie. I'd echo as you're talking, it goes back again, our presence, the association's presence at those events are really tied directly again to our mission and vision. We're there to serve. We're there to communicate the incredible programs and services and activities inside of alumni support here in our organization that are ideally for the benefit of all of our graduates. But we're here to serve and we're here to connect. So our presence at those locations, one, we consider ourselves guests of the society and very special visitors. But we're there to serve and connect.
Izzy, I think, Mark, what were you at? Like just over 8,000 miles, you said?
I think that's right.
Who had the most out of AOG?
It was actually Mark. So
it was.
by my estimate, it's 8,396 miles.
Oh,
and that's just as the crow flies. So I'm sure you did a lot more driving, especially to the airport and back.
Wow. I thought it was like number 3 or 4.
No, you were number 1.
I do know that doesn't compare to General Gillen. The superintendent, I think, set records this year in terms of the miles covered, the events attended. And we're very appreciative of him and his entire leadership team for taking the time on a weekend and getting out across basically the entire world. Their presence is invaluable in these events, and of course, he led by example, like he always does.
Mm-hmm. Right, and also while also maintaining the standards here at the academy, because it's not an off season, right? It's in the middle of everything.
It's overtime.
And
that's right.
Exactly, outside of the normal scope. So making sure that they are also out there is important to them as well. It's great to see that as well. So Mark, saying that, what is that value of Founders Day? Why do you approve the AOG staff and faculty of West Point, and kind of we go through that to travel for those? What is that value for us as AOG, for the societies, for the grads? What do you really think that comes across as?
I think, again, it comes back to vision and mission. Our mission is to serve and our vision is to connect. I think the value of our travel and being guests of these great societies is twofold. One, hopefully we can bring a little bit of what's going on here at West Point and inside the association to those societies. But honestly, our team gets so much out of those experiences that we can bring back to Herbert Hall, that we can bring back to our organization so we can get better, and we can provide better services, better communications, better support to our long gray line. We've got, exact number is right around 55,400 living graduates. And I think our estimates in this Founders Day season is we touched, I forget the exact number, but we've got that somewhere. But I thought it was about 6,000 graduates over the course of all of these events. Somebody will fact check me on that one. But the physical interaction is priceless, really. So for us to bring that back here to Herbert Hall, to interact with society leadership grads of all ages, you can't put a dollar value on that. It was extremely valuable to us.
I totally agree and appreciate the opportunity to attend. Like I said, I went to Space Coast and it was a lot of fun as well as educational and informative. So Izzy, the societies are more than just Founders Day though, right? And that is our big season, but they do more than that, and they do more than just Boodle, right? For new cadets and cadets that are here. So what are some of the benefits that you're hearing about?
There's so many benefits to our societies. One of the big things that our societies do is they support a lot of the older grads who are in their area. They'll also take care of a lot of the surviving spouses. So even if they lose their person that's connecting them to West Point, societies really try to reach out and connect to those surviving spouses. They also do a lot in terms of admissions efforts. So they're going out to the different high schools. They're serving on the nominating committees. They're doing these local awards that they can give to students. They're doing volunteer work in their communities, not just in terms of things related to veterans, but they're going out and doing a ton of stuff in the community. They're also just connecting people to their fellow grads. They might not know one of their classmates just moved down the street. So they'll get to meet them at one of their events. And it's not just Founders Day events. It's Army Navy watch parties, Army Air Force watch parties. They do summer picnics and holiday parties. So they do tons of different things.
What's a unique thing that you saw society do the last year or so that was like, oh, that's innovative? What do you think?
I know the West Point Society of Upstate South Carolina celebrates Mule Day every year. Yeah, I think that's just so
that's
cool.
That's a day. I feel like our comms team needs to be aware of that. Oh no.
We also have a few societies that are in the areas where the other service academies are. So they take care of all of the exchange cadets. So if they're missing their affirmation ceremony, they're missing their ring ceremonies sometimes, they'll hold these different events for those cadets. And sometimes it's not just the exchange cadets. It could be cadets that are on one of the sports teams and they're missing something because they happen to be out at one of those. And so Pikes Peak, Annapolis, Connecticut, they make sure all those cadets are taken care of.
Right. I think that was one of the hockey things this spring, during the spring sports season, where the hockey team was out there during post night or something, and Pikes Peak took care of them. And all right, how do grads find the society? How do they? I now live in Denver. How do I find out about my local society?
The best thing that grads can do is make sure that their addresses are updated on file with the AOG. This will automatically add them to the society's mailing list. So make sure your address is up to date, make sure you have a good email on file, and you will automatically start getting those notifications.
Okay, I'm going to second that, because that also goes for your magazine subscriptions and everything else. As everybody's PCSing and we enter PCS season, or you're getting promoted with your rank, or changing your everything lifestyle, and you're going into if you're getting out of the military, please just update your information with us. Again, it goes back to my point I think I said earlier about, like, we keep that history, and we want to know if you're taking command. We want to know if you're in a company in Fort Liberty or not. So we want to help that, and it'll help get all of your information to the right location.
Yes. And if someone happens to know that they're moving, they know where they're going to be moving to, they just don't know their address yet, so they can't update it yet, we can go ahead and add them to the list. You can reach out to society-support@WPAOG.org. Or if you're a snowbird and you want to be a part of more than one society, we can also add you to that list. Or if you just want to be on more than one society mailing list, that is also perfectly fine. You can also look at Sallyport to see where all of our societies are.
And this is why you just get rave reviews, Izzy, because you're just so accommodating for everybody as they go through their life and supporting them as a grad. Really do appreciate you. And okay, so now I'm in my society. What do I do? How do I participate? How can I influence?
There's so many different ways.
I mean, not me, because I'm not a grad, but
there's so many ways that people can get involved with their societies. Of course, reach out to your leadership, see if there's any roles that need to be filled. Right now, we are looking for volunteer veteran services liaisons. Those will be people who are more familiar with the veteran process or the VA, more specifically in their area. Or if you're willing to help with the surviving spouses in your area, we're looking for people to help with those too. You can help with admissions efforts. You can also help plan all the different events that societies do. There are also different cadet conferences that go on. So WIPLIC, STEM, STEAM, LEADS conferences, you can definitely help plan those. And you can also help support cadets when they come to your area. It could be the cadets that are from your area. You could send boodle boxes with the parents club. Or if you know that there's a team or a club coming to your area, you can help with providing food. You can be there to cheer on the team. Cadets always love seeing those grads there to cheer them on.
Yeah, we've seen the spontaneous pop-up tailgates that I'm sure are not spontaneous because they're well orchestrated and planned out.
Yeah.
But that's always a warm welcome by cadets and athletes, that's for sure, as they're traveling, and clubs as well. Just great stuff, and really do appreciate all the work that you do behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
The AOG is just one piece of the Long Green Line and its connection to West Point. I think that the Cadets Chapel sanctuary window is one of the things that always sticks out in my brain when I think about the Association of Graduates and how it started. And it was a gift. That window was a gift in 1911 on behalf of all living alumni as a memorial to those graduates that came before them. And it was given by the Association of Graduates. It was the first window to be installed in the chapel, and it bears the motto, "Duty, Honor, Country." And I think it just goes back to making those connections and being the most connected alumni body in the world, and all of the activities that here at AOG we're doing to include Founders Day to celebrate that long history, and also those that are coming before. I think one of the things that I enjoyed in Space Coast, and Mark, I don't know if you had this opportunity when you were out there, but the new cadets that were going to be coming in, that were accepted and coming in and meeting them and their families. Do you want to talk about that a little
absolutely.
bit?
Every society that we attended celebrated their new cadets, and they got them up there on the stage. They gave them rounds of applause, but there were just many conversations and congratulations. I think for those new cadets, that was an amazing introduction to the Long Gray Line. And it was really exciting. Just like Izzy said earlier, seeing the excitement in the society's eyes about the caliber of these young men and women and how proud they were to be sending them off to West Point. That was a huge part of the experience and the event.
So I don't know if either one of you have any closing remarks for the grads listening and motivation to get them involved and get them out there. Izzy, you want one more pitch?
I just want to give a huge shout out to the society leaders, all of those volunteers.
Absolutely.
They are actually the boots on the ground doing everything, planning the events. They are all just so incredible and they're all so amazing to work with.
Can I echo Izzy's comment? My appreciation was absolutely directed in the society presidents, but all the leadership, the secretaries, the care counselors, everybody that's volunteering there inside of the societies. It directly contributes to the strength of the Long Gray Line. And I promise you that our mission here is to serve you all. Let us know how we can do it better. I did want to close in terms of Founders Day with one specific memory here down in Philadelphia. Beautiful venue, incredible crowd. Everyone was dressed so nicely. It was loud. I mean, it was a party. But when the oldest grad got up there to speak, a gentleman by the name of Lieutenant General retired Dennis Benchoff in the class of 62, I tell you, you could have heard a pin drop. His words were so powerful, so meaningful for everybody in attendance. We were blown away and so appreciative. It was a gift to be present as he was passing on his thoughts. And I just wanted to close maybe with his last paragraph. I mean, it was a beautiful speech. And again, just goosebumps the entire time. But his last paragraph goes as this. He was talking about the Corps and how it's, in his mind, how it's changed over the years. And he says, the Corps has continually changed to keep up with its environment, its challenges, and its mission. It has continually changed to continue its position as a role model for training leaders of character, leaders who define distinguished service and personal sacrifice. I am proud to stand with you and with them in the Long Gray Line as we continue to engage and defeat those who would put our great nation in peril. And he closed with, the Corps has, and the United States of America is all the better for it. It was incredible. Standing ovation, just so meaningful for all of us. And it just gives, at least for us personally, an incredible memory to wrap up this Founders Day season. So thanks, Jamie. Thanks for the time to share that.
Absolutely, Mark. You've set the bar high with 8,300 and change miles this year. Look forward to an update next year. Izzy, again, thank you for your work. And I know it's not just you. There are people with you and working with you behind the scenes here at AOG and, like you said, out in the fields, trying to get this all done and up and running with the societies. Mark, Izzy, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today to talk about AOG and specifically about these last few weeks of togetherness during Founders Day events.
Well, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Go Army.
Beat Navy.
Thank you for listening to the WPAOG Broadcast Network. Please take a moment to rate and review the show and join us each week for a new episode. Thank you for listening.